Planting the Rock Church has kind of been like a little bit of a wild car ride. It's been scary at times. Also wonder where we're going at different times. But it's always been fun and exhilarating. God has done so much. And I thought it would be fun just to take a little ride physically and go to the different places that we've actually met throughout the history of the Rock Church, especially to give those who haven't been with us that long somewhat of a background for what God has done through the Rock Church and how He has blessed us. So I thought I'd start with the houses that both Mac and I bought in 1999 before we moved out here and take us through all the different locations. So this is where we had our first service. Remember, it was me preaching to you and to Jeannie and to Mary.
Yeah, I remember this is ground zero. I remember you even had bulletins. So
I did.
He handed us a bulletin. So
no PowerPoint.
And well, I think there was fill in the blanks, so I'm pretty sure it was awesome. Yeah, God's really blessed using this house, and this is where it all started.
People started coming, and we only did that for about 2.5 months before we actually started our service at Alta Canyon Sports Center.
Yeah, I remember being so excited when you came and told us that you had found a place, that Alta Rec Center would be available, and you really felt that that'd be a great place for us to begin doing church publicly for the first time. So we were all so excited about that. Although it was fun here, we were outgrowing your house.
Yeah, that's true. Again, it's about people. It's about what God was doing in people's lives, and ever since we've been here, whether it's in a living room or at Alta Canyon, wherever it is, it's always been about seeing people's lives change, and Jesus does that, and we believe it. Well, this is the first place that we met in way back in 1999, 3 years in the aerobics room. And we grew here. We had to set up every morning. We came in, and I double counted because the mirrors over here. We had lots of people coming. This was it. This was the place God gave us. This is where we started. We'd meet people out in the lobby, and Josh would be here early to be setting up chairs. You remember that?
Yeah, absolutely. Right here on this little carpet where we'd set up a table every Sunday morning. We'd have all the sign-ins and everything for just us to greet people. We'd hand out the bulletins, and if you hear a lot of people talking about how they would come into the rec center and people would hand them a bulletin, and this is right where that happens.
It may be an aerobics room, but truly, it's not about the building. It's not even about a room with mirrors and weights and people doing aerobics. A lot of people came here and a lot of changed lives. This is where truly our church began, and we grew and we grew and we grew, and we eventually got asked to leave. We were packing this place out every Sunday, and we had to go find a place in about 30 days. But we would have kids areas over in the racquetball room. We'd baptize people in an Olympic-sized baptismal pool, and this is what God had for us. But again, it's all about what God did to change lives. So Max, you remember the first time we came into this building and the landlord was showing us our future house?
Yeah, I do. I don't even think he really wanted to show it to us, but we had bothered him so many times. He finally showed up, gave in, and he thought this would be the last place we'd ever want to build a church.
Yeah, I don't think he thought we'd be serious about it. Once he showed it to us, because we stood right over there, and we could hear water, a burst pipe, water rushing through the ceiling, and ceiling tiles were down, and it smelled bad too in here. But I think what was cool was that I think we saw it with eyes of faith, that even though it was completely trashed and rooms back there had wooden floors that were at a 3-foot bow because they'd been wet for so long, we saw that this was a place God could use to bring people and just simply hear the message of Christ. That's all we wanted to do, was to have a place to do that, and we did that here. I think the fact that we've been asked to leave this place in July, that they say they're going to tear it down, is a pretty good indication that God's leading us. And the fact that we have land, we just simply need to put a building on that property. And again, not just have a nice building.
No.
You can tell we don't care about nice buildings. It won't hurt to have a nice building, but it's going to bring more people to a point where we can simply tell them about Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And so we may leave this place, but the church is coming with. The church is going to be in Draper. It doesn't matter what building we're in. So we're excited about what God's going to do in the future, this next season. In 2003, we had grown as a church. We had a number of young men and women coming, and we actually hired our first staffer, Paige Crosswhite. And I turned her loose and I said, Paige, go find a place we could plant our first church, a church that would be relevant to her friends, who we had a bunch of at that time, and this is a building she found.
I'd looked at several places. We were launching in 3 weeks. We had no place to meet and only phone calls to my number and a website to go to. In 1 year, it was fascinating because we grew so much. We were trying to hit a relevant culture. I remember Bill just said, Paige, build a place that your friends are going to want to come to. And that's what I did. I gathered a small group of people. I said, guys, this is our vision. Let's go for it. We were all volunteering. I was the only one working for the church. And we built this place.
Josh and I were working together to turn the downtown building into somewhat of a presentable church. And at that time, we had a plan to put together a coffee bar that involved some mixing of cement and moving of heavy bags and putting these cement pallets into place. And as Josh was telling me this, I had the thought, we don't have any men that are going to be able to help us do this. And so we made some phone calls, and that night we had 8 guys show up. And I remember screaming on the top of my lungs, Josh, can you believe that we have 8 faithful guys that showed up to help us with this coffee bar?
And I remember when we started, we had 1 childcare room, and we had like 1 or 2 childcare workers.
We dump out our bin of toys, and the 3 of us are sitting around playing with our kids and watching them play with the toys. And you fast forward 8-9 years, there's 60, 70 kids showing up on a Saturday night. And those kids, there's a lot of kids, but the reason those kids are encouraging to me is because it translates to change lives. Because most of those kids, their parents weren't even in the church 8-9 years ago. Mom and dad got saved, they joined the church, they got married, and now they've had a kid or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5.
On God's heart is people. In the fall of 2006 and even on into 2007, the downtown church, downtown Salt Lake Rock, was raging. The seats were full, and we were trying to figure out maybe where would the next strategic church plant be. And we realized in the first front rows of church, it seemed like every Saturday, there were a group of people coming up from Utah County. During worship, they'd be raising their hands. Each time we had baptisms, it seemed like someone from that group was getting baptized. And later on that spring, the pastors got together for a retreat up in Ogden. We were praying and seeking the Lord for what our next church plant might be, what God was doing. And we realized that God was calling us. I realized personally, God spoke to my heart that we would plant a church in Utah County. So not long after that, we moved down here and rented out this old warehouse, and we had fun fixing it up. It was trashed. It was an old auto repair business, and it was just a wreck. But a number of people from Sandy and Salt Lake came down and helped us fix it up. Now, 5.5 years later, we're confident God is still doing that. In fact, we're fixing up the building again, putting new paint on it. But God is still saving people. There's still baptisms, and it's still on His heart about people. And we really think that this is a strategic location right here in downtown Provo, where God will continue to use this place as a rescue shop.
Ever since we moved to this valley, we had a dream to have a home of our own. And finally, I think God has brought us to this place. This piece of property is where God has brought us. And we're excited to put a building on this land and get our roots down deep so that we can have greater impact for Jesus Christ.
After our first Roots program, we had enough money to pay for this land in 2008. Now, when we get a building, I believe it's going to give us stability, legitimacy, and opportunities like we've never had before to share the love of Christ with Utah. I just want you to imagine with me what it'll be like when we finally put a building on this dirt. Seeing what God has done in the past with the Rock Church has definitely been a ride, but I believe with all my heart that what He has for us in the future will make the past look like black and white. Thanks for being a part of this ride down the history of the Rock Church. It has been so cool to see what God has done. But I want to tell you something. It's about time to buckle up because we have a future that we can't even imagine. God has plans for this church, and you are part of those plans. In order to make this dream come to reality, put a building on this land, it's going to take more than just land or just dreaming. We're going to have to commit financially. But if we all work together, honestly, I believe we can make this happen. I know we can. You need to be a part. You need to commit. And I believe that if we work together, we can accomplish amazing things. I believe God wants to win Utah and therefore reach the world. I want you to be a part. of what God is doing at the Rock Church.
Can you believe it's been 10 years since we filmed that Roots Capital campaign right here on this property? It was just dirt then, but since that time we've been living the dream. God has not only helped us buy the land, pay for the land, we've also built a building on the land. Again, God has been so kind to us over the last 10 years. He really has. And what we want to do in this video is just take a look back at some of the blessings that God has brought because of this property and this facility. So let's go inside and we'll talk about that just for a little bit. Come with me. You know, 10 years ago, we began construction on this building. We started in the spring and actually moved in July. Our grand opening was in October. And I'll never forget the moment the general contractor looked at me and handed me the keys and said, "Bill, use this building for God." And you know what? I think we have. We were all surprised when God brought us all back together over the course of about 6 years. All locations came here. But as we look at what God did, we see the wisdom of the phrase, "We're better together." God has done so much in this facility. Why don't we just take a little walk and we'll reflect on some of the things He's done. You know, when I think about all the ministry that has been done in this building, I realize something. God answered our prayers. That's exactly what we prayed. Just think about all the different things that we've done. Of course, we've had thousands of church services right here in this auditorium. I can remember concerts and shows. Rocktoberfest used to be held here, now we have it outside. Our Christmas shoebox, Samaritan's Purse ministry had hundreds and hundreds of boxes filled this room. The Missions Gala, hundreds of youth groups have taken place right here, not to mention all the kids programs in the back of the building. We've had men's nights, ladies' nights, compassion child sponsors. We've got ministry like Memory Madness, Connections Booth Ministry, so much community service, baby dedications. In short, lives have been transformed in this building. And you know, we've also had some hard things happen in this building. Remember COVID? That was difficult, not just for our church, but for all churches. But again, God has proved faithful, and now our attendance is higher than it was before COVID. And let's not forget how many people have gotten saved and baptized right here in this room. We're talking about thousands and thousands of lives that have changed. God has been faithful to us. You know, I could go on and on about what God has done, but I want us to think about the future. Can you imagine what God will do? Without a doubt, God has seen fit to bless our church and our faith as we have purchased land, built buildings, seen so many people come to know Christ and baptized, and preach the good news of Jesus Christ to thousands upon thousands of people. Imagine what He's going to do in the future. Can you imagine what would happen as we double down on our vision, which is one life at a time and one world in our lifetime, and our mission, which is to win the lost, build the believer, and send the sanctified? Imagine what would happen. I believe this for a long time, that if we win Utah with the good news of Jesus Christ, we will actually accomplish reaching the entire world. I honestly believe that. Let me ask you something. Do you believe it? As you may or may not know, we are currently working on our Imagine the Possibilities campaign. We're trying to raise money to be able to pay off the entirety of our debt by the end of the year, to be able to put a third space, a patio along the west side right here, and also to upgrade some of our sound equipment. And I just want to encourage you, if you're not involved in that yet, you still can be. We can do this. It is possible. Hey, as long as we're dreaming, here's some of my dreams. How about the possibility of a brand new addition on the north lawn, right here where we're standing, where we build a new auditorium, have a huge lobby, and we leave that whole side of the building for our amazing kids programs? How would that be? How about more church plants? We could do that. What about more weekend services to get more people in our building? We're definitely going to have more salvations and baptisms. We're definitely going to have more rock music originals, aren't we? How about opportunities to serve? How about we're going to glorify God even more than we have the past 10 years? You know what? This is not hard for me to imagine. In fact, I can taste it. I want this. You know what I can't imagine? I can't imagine not having you and your family along for the ride. This last 10 years has been so much fun. I want you to experience what God has for this church over the next 10 years. Let's commit to leaving a legacy to the next generation. Let's make sure that we are involved in winning Utah and reaching the world. Let's together imagine what God might do. I want you to just imagine.